I'm only making this video because I had a friend who was murdered.
We want to begin with breaking news.
Teenager found dead in an alley, now identified as 17-year-old Brianna Wells.
I cannot believe this case is still unsolved.
My mom, she has an obsessive way of thinking about things.
Too many murders in your neighborhood. Too many crimes.
These alleys in Phoenix, they are like secret veins of the city.
One thing that really disturbed me was the way the media was portraying her.
Because she wasn't a runaway troubled teen like they said she was.
I just want to find out who did this and why.
You know, that's when I realized that it was a body. It was a female body.
Right here, right behind here, a 17-year-old girl was murdered.
Today, we are announcing the investigation into the Phoenix Police Department.
I wanted to ask you if you know anything about this case.
Are they doing their job?
My God, you talk to everybody. It's homicide investigation 101.
Every time somebody looks at this case or reads anything about this case, the first thing the public says is, where is the family and why aren't they doing anything?
I can live with it if it's not solved.
We as first responders, if there's anything that we could help, we would do it. Unfortunately, in this case, we were not able to do that.
If we all live in fear, then we're going to let the monsters rule everything.
You're going to line up your sights. You're going to point it.
I've been in your community, I've been in your churches. I need to drive a hero out of that neighborhood.
It's not been forgotten now.
These stories that should not slip through the cracks, slip through the cracks. Yeah, it happens.
On the morning of Monday, December 29th, 2014, a Tempe, Arizona teenager, Brianna Wells, was found dead in a Phoenix area alleyway. The 17-year-old, who had been discovered by a neighbor taking out his trash at approximately 9:30 that morning, had been shot multiple times. Brianna's case would eventually grow cold and to this day remains unsolved and largely forgotten. The word of Brianna's death soon spread across local news as well as social media, soon reaching those who knew and went to school with the Marcos Deniza High School junior. The fact that someone could be shot and dumped in an alley and then simply get away with it left the community puzzled and worried. But it has also left Brianna's friends and loved ones heartbroken and frustrated, and at least one of them determined to seek and to find and to get answers. And my guest on today's episode is hoping beyond hope that he can further that effort. A few weeks ago, I had the honor and the pleasure of speaking to the 11-time Emmy Award-winning, to name a few awards that he's won, creative composer, producer, multi-instrumentalist, and now filmmaker Dan Brown Jr. Because you listen to this podcast and many other podcasts across the true crime landscape, I can say with a reasonable degree of certainty that you have most likely heard Dan's work somewhere on networks such as ABC, CBS, NBC, Disney, A&E, Investigation Discovery, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube, History Channel, Hallmark, NFL, HBO, TLC, HLN, Oxygen, BET, AMC, Apple, Crime and Investigation, on shows such as Dateline, Snapped, Unspeakable Crimes, The Hunt for the Zodiac, Pitbulls Parolees, Killer Beside Me, Catfish, The Hunt with John Walsh, Deadline Crime with Tamron Hall, Wives with Knives, American Greed, The Disappearance of Maura Murray, Very Scary People, Forensic Files, The Disappearance of Crystal Roberts, A Current Affair. Also, to name a few, there are literally thousands of places where you have heard Dan's work, and today we will put at least a voice to the musician who woke up one day and decided he wanted to, quote, write music you hear on the crime shows. With that, Dan created Crime Sonics in 2018 with a singular goal in mind: to take over the sound of crime television, films, and games worldwide by supplying the globe with exquisitely criminal production music. Since then, Crime Sonics, under Dan's creative vision and leadership, has amassed an eclectic repository of criminal and investigative music and sound effects, redefining what crime TV should sound like. Dan has since crossed over into filmmaking with a project that is also a passion, with his documentary, Girl Forgotten: What Happened to Brianna Wells. You heard the film's trailer at the opening, a link to which is in the show notes where you can watch and subscribe to Crime Sonics on YouTube, which you're going to want to once you learn who Brianna was and is. And you're going to learn about the ongoing efforts to solve her murder. With this documentary, Dan hopes to bring light to a case that has been languishing in darkness for more than a decade. This is my interview with Dan Brown Jr. I want to welcome everybody to the show. This is California Dreaming, and today I have something and someone a little different for you. We have a guest, and he's here with me today to talk about this incredible project that has been years in the making. And my listeners know many of you have been listening for quite a long time, and I don't do interviews very often. We've had a few, and I don't have a tremendous amount of confidence as an interviewer, which is why I don't do this. And I don't ever really do video stuff. I'm not any journalist or anything, or detective or investigator by any stretch of the imagination. But fortunately, the handful of people who I have spoken to on the show are usually the ones who carry the episode, and I'm hoping that will be the case here today. Based in Los Angeles, California, our guest is the recipient of numerous film awards as a composer, producer, and a multi-instrumentalist, including 17 Emmy nominations, and 11 of those he took home with him. And just as I shared the origins of our little podcast here, having come to me in a dream, and I woke up randomly to myself and said, I need to start a crime podcast. Our guest today found his start in kind of a similar way. He began his production music career because he wanted to write music that you hear on the crime shows that you love to watch. And his first placements, wound up on one of our all-time favorites, which is Dateline. And if you're going to end up on a crime show, I guess that would be the premier one to show up on. So since then, his work has been featured on just about every major network across the board, from Disney to Discovery. I mean, we could probably sit here all day and talk about your career. But like I said, we're here to talk about your documentary that you're currently working on. It's entitled Girl Forgotten: What Happened to Brianna Wells. I'm really so excited to welcome Dan Brown Jr. to our show.
And I feel welcome, Roseanne Sinclair. It's a privilege to be here with you today. You just have such a lovely voice. At the time of this filming, you're over 300 episodes. So I just feel like a small little part of what you are creating. And it's good to be with you. And it's good to be with all your fans.
Thank you. And I did take a look at your website, and I'm going to put links to all of your things in the show notes. And wow, your resume is awe-inspiring. You're definitely the most award-winningest guest that's ever graced this show. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me and us about you and the making of this film. Before we get to the documentary itself, why don't you tell the listeners about yourself, who you are, your background, and where and how your interest in the composition of crime show music came about. I want to hear about that moment that it came to you, like how I mentioned I had a dream and I woke up with this epiphany. Tell us about your moment and why were you watching crime shows and paying attention to the music instead of the case?
Yeah, you nailed it. I'll give you, because we just have to talk about this film, so I'll give you kind of the shorter version. Okay. But I grew up from a musical family in the Midwest, so I'm very much a Bible Belt Midwest kind of person, even though I'm out here in Los Angeles now. I like to preface that because I'm still normal. But did the rock band thing, did the cover band thing, did the tribute band thing. Lots of fun guitar to play in that kind of music, especially in like the 80s Hairspray, the Journey kind of bands. I'm not gonna lie, I love that stuff. we moved from St. Louis out to Denver. In a short story, I met a guy who scored the music for an indie film. And I remember he showed me the score, and it was good. And maybe in like my arrogance at the time, or my youth at the time, or maybe just because I was naive, I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do that. That sounds like a cool thing. And so I started like tinkering around in my home. I had a little home studio, computer, record some music, and everything I was writing just had this kind of darker guitar-based sound to it. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound like a Jurassic Park score or anything. That doesn't sound like Star Wars. I mean, it just has its very unique kind of dark thing. And I'm like, where can I ever find a place for that in television or in movies? And like you mentioned, it's like you start listening to, archival Dateline episodes from the 90s and early 2000s, and you start hearing this music. And yeah, we're all locked in on Keith Morrison's voice as he's leaning up on stuff. But I started ignoring that guy, and I'm just listening to the background music. I'm like, wait a minute. I hear guitar in that song. I hear guitar in that track. I hear guitar in that. But then I hear all this orchestra and all this other stuff. It was fascinating to me. So I just decided, okay, if I'm going to make a career in writing music for some sort of media, I'm going to do it in crime because I like these shows anyway. And I hear a guitar, which was at that time predominantly my main instrument. I remember telling my wife, we had like a 2-year-old son at the time. I remember telling her, okay, we're moving again. So we went from St. Louis to Denver, and now we're in Denver. And I'm like, we're moving to LA. I'm going to write music for crime shows. And she didn't look at me crazy. She goes, okay, what do you want to do? Let's figure it out. So I'm like, let's go. It's good wife. And so we moved out here. And then I realized pretty quick, LA's a big place. And when you're from St. Louis, which is a really small place, it's easy to go from having that big fish, small pond ego to becoming like no size fish in the ocean out here. So it's like, my gosh, talk about humble pie. And it was pretty difficult to get traction or get things going. I won't go into like all the details of like how, you just, one thing begots another thing, Roseanne. You just take meetings and you go to this meeting and then you meet this person and you go to this thing. And somehow I wound up with an opportunity to write music for a guy who had been writing music. You can kind of call it like a ghost writer in a way. And, sure enough, it was like 8 months later, I'm watching Dateline while I'm dusting off my studio. I'm just doing like spring cleaning. I'm just watching Dateline. And I hear this music. I'm like, wow, that sounds just like something I would have written. I'm like, wait a minute. That is what I wrote this. And I was like, no way. How does this work? And so, and 4 months later, then you get like a little royalty check. And even that first royalty check was so small. I mean, gosh, it's like a chai and a dinner or something. It was so small. I was hooked. I was like, this is it. I have figured it out. We're going to do this. And so I just kept doing that for other people. I had marketed myself to many companies that supply music to different shows, and not to get like too off into the weeds, but sometimes there's just like what Crime Sonics has become, which is the company I ultimately started, is it's myself, and then I have a wonderful group of writers, and we all write cybercrime and Southern justice and just eerie, foreboding music, like everything that you hear in a typical crime show. That's what we create. All the sound effects, all the music, this is what we do. And then we supply that music to just every crime show available. Like anyone can come to the library, download the music, get a licensing agreement, download the music, and then use it in their shows. And that's what I had been doing for other people. And it's just like, you get hooked on it, Roseanne. You get hooked on it. So it's a little bit. That's kind of like the overall.
Do you remember the episode, the case that you first heard your music being played on?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think it was something called like "Lady in the Pool" or "Lady in the Water" or something like that. It was one of those like titles where you're like, really, that title? That's ridiculous.
I think I've heard of that episode. I did cover a Dateline episode. It was called Lady in the Water, I think it was.
Yeah.
Happened in Huntington Beach.
Yep.
I was that the one?
I think that's the one. It's well, unfortunately, as we know in the crime space, as they say, there's a lot of ladies that end up in bodies of water.
Yeah.
A lot of bodies end up in a lot of places.
They do.
Certainly.
Okay. And that's such a great story. You have been nominated for and won many awards, the Emmy, of course, being one of the most, if not the most prominent. Tell us real quick about winning your very first award, winning your first Emmy, and which award like meant the most to you. What was the most memorable, the one that stood out that was like, you were like, I'm doing the right thing. Like this is making me feel like I chose the right career path.
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember, when you are trying to make your way in a city like Los Angeles or New York, Chicago, maybe even Nashville, you realize pretty quick, like it's a rough industry and no one really cares about what you're doing. No one really cares who you are. No one really cares about what you're doing. And somehow along the way, I got it in my head, like if I could just win some awards or something, at least it would validate what my wife has been telling me, which is you're pretty good. Like it's hard to get any gigs. And so if I could back up a little bit, it was after we started having the success with Crime Sonics that I kind of realized this. It was like I would call it the come to Jesus moment, where these are real stories, these are real cases, these are real people. And in a way, even as a criminal composer, am I not just profiting off the plight of real people in a way? Because even though we're trying to help tell their stories, we're trying to make an emotional impact, as the underscore in those stories, something to profit. And it's like, it's like, is there a way that we can do something to give back more? I wanted to do more. And so I got it in my head that I was going to start like highlighting crime rates in cities and do like public service announcements. And I was just going to start producing stuff. I had always been interested in cameras, was pretty good with cameras, was always interested in doing more editing and things of that nature, directing things. And so I just started small. And I thought, okay, let's pick some cities and let's go there. Let's get the drones out. Let's fly the drones in their cities. Let's try to interview people in those communities. Like, what are their crime rates? What are the police departments doing? Like, what's going on? And so the first time I won like a big award was we did a public service announcement on the city of Bakersfield, California. And Bakersfield is I use the word crimey. It's a crimey place. It's crimey.
You're not wrong.
It's crimey. It's crimey.
Yeah.
And I thought, let's do a thing. So there's like, there is a category for that. You can submit yourself, or, if you're a producer, they'll submit you if you're on the team. Since we were creating everything in-house under our Crime Sonics umbrella, under our banner, under our logo, I was like, who's going to be your biggest advocate if it's not yourself? You got to just go for it, right? Mm-hmm. And so we produced a thing, and then we got nominated, and it won a bunch of them. I was like, holy smokes! So we did several of those, and then at that point, and I won't get ahead of it, but that's when I started thinking, like, okay, I still don't feel like I'm evening out the universe here. I want to do something bigger, and I want to do something meaningful, impactful. I want to help solve something. And I tell you, I did not know it was going to be a 4-year journey.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that too. I have some questions about why this particular project took so long.
Yeah.
So getting to the film that you're here to talk about, in watching the trailers and reading what very little that I can find about this case online, Girl Forgotten, many of us have a case at some point in our lives and in our careers that resonated with us. It's kind of like a gateway case that opened us up to the wide world of true crime. And a lot of shows and books and films and podcasts are born from that. And it kind of turns into a passion project, so to speak. And that's kind of the vibe that I got just from viewing your trailers of Girl Forgotten, what happened to Brianna Wells. So in the spectrum of your career up to this point. I mean, where does Girl Forgotten place? I mean, how did you find your way to this particular story, to this crime? What drew you to Brianna?
That's a lovely question, Roseanne. I had the opportunity a couple times actually to be a presenter for CrimeCon, which is presented by Oxygen Network. There was a couple, it was a couple years back now. It was in Austin, Texas, and it was having those same conversations. I had met some other filmmakers that were there. I had already had this thing like welling up inside me. I was like, I want to do like a full long burn documentary, but I didn't want to do something like everyone else has done, which is like I didn't want to like just talk about Jodi Arias again. I didn't want to talk about Ramirez again, or BTK again, or Dahmer again, or Manson again, or Warnos again.
Mm.
Like, dude, we've heard it. Like, gosh, we've heard it.
Right.
Maybe it's because I'm a dad, but like I just thought there has to be just a sea of cases out there where no one is talking about them. No one is interested in them. And for whatever reason, but I was like, I'm not just if I'm going to do something, I'm going to put my time in it, my money, my energy, my effort. It's got to be something that no one knows about. So yeah, we're driving home from Austin to LA. We decided to drive out because we brought a bunch of instruments and equipment and everything. And I love Phoenix. I love that area. I vacation to Phoenix. I hang out in Scottsdale all the time. For years, we'd go out to Sedona. And every time I'm there, I'm just like, gosh, I would live here. And so when we're driving back from CrimeCon that year, we were in the car talking about the documentary again. I was like, okay, I feel pulled to do it right here in this city. I love Phoenix. So if I'm going to, spend a lot of time out here and get real sweaty and, slap these cameras everywhere, we're going to do it in this city. I'm going to look for cases here. So I got back, and it was that very next week I started just Googling up cold case. And I actually found 4 cases that I was interested in. There was a Native American woman that was murdered in her trailer, and I had an initial phone call, and I think I actually talked to the killer on that one. But being,
Wow.
yeah, it was interesting, and so like no one's dug into that one, which might happen, but it's hard to kind of crack into that community if you're not from that community. There was another woman that I couldn't get anybody on the phone. I mean, it was just no one, like nobody. Like it was like, wow, okay. There was another case of just a lovely guy who I believe he was retired and took a job as a security guy just to ride his bike around, like protect a strip mall or an apartment complex. It's been a lot of years since I've dug into it. I've had some great conversations with his wife. His murder is unsolved. He was killed on his bike. I mean, a retired guy just having a night job. It's terrible. And that's actually an opportunity. I may still look into that one. I'm still friends with his wife. And then, of course, it brings us to Brianna. There was this little girl, 17-year-old girl, found in an alley, murdered. And I couldn't find anything on it, just like when Roseanne Sinclair looked.
I did not. I failed miserably.
Yeah. And everyone will. But that ends today, Roseanne, because here we are. This is the first one. I'm committed to go on 100 podcasts to talk about this.
Wonderful.
And I will chat with you off record and off, once we're done filming today, and arm you with some things. And we're gonna make Brianna's story very famous, because I believe 100% that we have solved her murder, and we're going to explore that in this film.
Okay, well, you're answering some of the questions I have down the line here.
Yep. We'll get to them. I won't get ahead of you.
Okay. Okay, so when I went on YouTube, the very few things that are out there, I mean, they've kind of been put out by you. There's 2 trailers for Girl Forgotten, one from 2022 and one that looks like it was posted this year, if I'm not mistaken. So this documentary of yours has been in the works for several years now. Crime documentaries are popping up on streaming services at what feels like a very rapid pace, sometimes within a year. a breaking news story will become a documentary, and the turnaround time isn't very long, especially if we're talking about a high profile case that's garnered a great deal of media attention. And, the filmmakers, they want to hit while the story's hot. But this is not the case here with Brianna's story. This is not one that has grabbed any headlines, but it's grabbed you. And I want to know why has this taken so many years?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's been, at the time of this recording, the film is done. It's been 4 years. And what, you and I are on camera, though we're listening, this will be listened to via audio. I'm staring at the film and the orchestral composition of it. That's what I'm working on right now. Film will be absolutely finished within 8 weeks. So why would something like this take so long? This film was produced in-house just by myself, my wife, and my son. That's it. So we did everything. And when you do it that way, you do get to tell an incredible story, hopefully the way it should be told, without many cooks in the kitchen. But because there's not many hands, it takes a long time. I think we recorded over 67 hours of footage. At this time, I've interviewed more people than the Phoenix Police Department in regard to Brianna's case.
I'm interested in that aspect of this as well, but I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
It took 13 months of editing.
Wow.
But we also filmed for years. And the reason why, and we can talk all about it, is I'll just go into it. Like, when we first started this investigation, it was like what you experienced. It's like, where is everybody? Where is everybody? So I started poking around. Nobody, crickets. I'm like texting people, I'm finding numbers, emailing people, nothing. I find a Reddit post, and it's the lady that you see in the trailer, the lady holding that picket sign. I see this lady.
Are we speaking her name?
Yeah, her name is Gina. Gina is a hero. Okay. So I find Gina, and all I find from Gina is this little Reddit post, and she's like combating people. And I'm like, okay, this must be like an aunt, or maybe it's her mom. I'm like, who is this lady? I'm like, I got to get in touch with this lady. Can't figure out how to get in touch with her. And then, just by digging deep, I find that, okay, she has a daughter, and her daughter has an Instagram. So I'm able to get through, that way. And then I send some messages. I can't remember how we got it, but I just know I had a phone call with Gina, the lady with the picket sign that you see on the poster now. When she got me on the phone, it was she actually works in sales. So she started selling it. And at that time, what she had told me was, I'm like the only person that seems to care about this girl, because this girl that was murdered, Brianna, is my daughter's friend, really close friend. And I was like, okay. So then I'm like, wait a minute. So the Brianna who was murdered, it's her friend's mom that's investigating this. I'm like, okay, this is bizarre.
That is interesting.
It's interesting. And so my very first thought, which is a lot of people's thought, is, where's the family?
Right.
Where's the family? And so I'm like, okay. So she starts telling me that there is, in their community, there is a lot of rumor and there's a lot of speculation of why the family was not involved in some very vocal, or, where's the billboards? Where's the balloon launches? Where's the signs? Where's the picket sign? Like the lady in our trailer, in our film. Where is that real effort? And, everyone grieves in a different way. People handle tragedy in a different way. And who am I, or who is anybody to say the way someone else handles their tragedy is the right or the wrong way? I'm no one to judge that. But I'm very interested in helping a 17-year-old girl get the justice she deserves. So, I reached out to the family, and it was interesting. I'll say that. I won't get ahead of the film, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious. I am curious about the family, because I don't know very much about him, but I do know that she was adopted, and that her parents are pretty prominent members of the community as well.
Yeah,
and
right.
I found that to be quite interesting that this case has been so low key considering who her parents were.
That's right.
Are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And that's the thing. So, Roseanne, you just did what every single person would do. It's like, this seems like you'd have every opportunity or every ability to have this out in the media. Like you'd be, like you have connections with the news, like you have connections with politicians and, senators and things. Like you should, a lot of homicide is politically driven. Like,
Yeah.
I think that this would get done. And there was just nothing. I did find that there was one podcast in the past that was that Brianna's father actually was a guest on in regard to this case, but then that podcast was taken down. It was taken down.
I was going to ask you about that because I was looking at that podcast and I went to their episodes, and that one episode is missing from their catalog.
It is, and that's because I can't say that that's so that I won't mention the name of that podcaster right now, but he's actually in our film, and we explore that in great detail, and you actually hear some of that podcast in our film.
I was wondering why, if they were being pressured by the family or law enforcement or other powers that be,
Yeah. Well, it's in our film.
Good, because I was like disappointed when I clicked on the link and it was broken. I was like, wait a minute. I went to my podcast directory and I scrolled around, and sure enough, it was missing from their list. I wanted to listen to a podcast about this ahead of time or something on YouTube. I did not find anything. And like I said, that podcast you spoke of, they covered her story in October of 2020. I wanted to ask you about what compelled them to take it down, but it was pressure from the family.
And even to clarify, because I have all of that email traffic, and it's clear when you read it, you can see it, but you can also make the argument that like he felt like he would be pressured. So I'm never someone to just say like, this is what happened and this is why he took it down. But when you read that email exchange, you could see that, for a podcaster, like a lawsuit.
As being someone who's been on the other end of that, I've been confronted by family members of episodes that I did publish and that I wanted to publish. And it's really easy to just want to fold because you just don't want to hurt or cause any more anguish or pain for the family. And that's part of the reason why, like you said, we're profiting off of this. I don't have paid advertisers and I don't make any money off of this. Whatever I make comes from Patreon, So I tried to I had this one case where the daughter was murdered. It was unsolved. It happened in 2000. There was some drug addiction issues going on. And I was like, let's do this. The victim's best friend had reached out to me. And I said, well, is it okay with the family? How does the family feel about us telling her story? Because there was very, very little about her story as well online. And the mom got in touch with me and I was like, you know what, let's do this. Let's put together, how about a dedicated podcast to your daughter? And she was on board until she got it into her head that my podcast downloads are kind of like music downloads, where I'm going to get some kind of royalty or payment or percentage off of Apple. And, whenever somebody listens to my show, and I tried to explain to her, I don't make any, in fact, I pay to have my podcast out there. People don't pay me. And she just couldn't be convinced. I wanted to do the story anyway. She kind of got angry. The listeners that I had talked to about it in our discussion group, they were like, maybe you should just stay away. And it was very easy to want to walk away, but not without a lot of regret,
I can understand.
Yeah. So without giving too much away, and because there's so little about Brianna out there, can you tell us a little bit of background information about her and the crime? Whatever you're able to share without spoiling too much of your film. Can you just give us a little background of what happened?
What is now public knowledge was, well, one of the things that was kind of interesting when information was first released about Brianna, they never were clear on how she was killed. Like it was like murky on how she was killed. Let me say these things for preparation to our film. I was able to obtain all of her crime scene photos, all of her police reports, toxicology reports, medical examiner autopsy reports, her diary, which is like no guy should have a young girl's diary.
I was going to ask you about this, how much information you were able to get from the police files and whatnot. But
yeah, and then I'm just kind of scanning over my head. There were several individuals very close to Brianna who were like with her. I mean, 48 hours prior to her homicide, and either with her or was just with her within an hour, less than an hour of her homicide, and the police have never interviewed those people. And so it's like, gosh, that kind of stuff is so frustrating. I've interviewed the person that found her body. I've interviewed the person who heard her homicide. I've interviewed the amazing fire chief who pronounced her dead in that alley.
Somebody heard the actual shooting, or the car driving by dumping her. Was she wasn't killed where she was found? Is that right?
Well, I won't get ahead of the film, but I tell you, we absolutely know the answer to that.
Okay.
We absolutely know the answer to that. And I said it at the beginning here. I mean, I'm 99.9999999 and a lot more 9% sure that I know exactly who killed her and where that person is right now.
Is it something that's circumstantial, or is there hard physical?
The problem, Roseanne, is there's some things that this is my belief. There's some things that are found at her crime scene that could be hard to justify. Like if you were this individual's defense attorney, you could point to some evidence at her crime scene and go, it wasn't our guy because there's this. But with what we found out from the interviews that we did, again, with people who were with her just 2 days, and the day, I mean, within 30, 45 minutes possibly of her homicide, the information that they gave us not only explains exactly what you find in that crime scene, and it puts other people at that crime scene. And I mean, it's so frustrating. Like, this case is absolutely solvable if you would just talk to the people that I talked to. So, so the question is now, it's like, why haven't we gotten all that stuff to the Phoenix police? No, it's all going. Everything's going. Not only that, during the filming of this, we uncovered a horrific child molestation. It's someone in our film that when we filmed him, we didn't know he was a pedophile until the first trailer came out, and then that individual's daughter reached out to me. So we have that whole conversation recorded, and it's terrible. And then on top of that, with another person closely related to Brianna Wells, she was raped by the person that I believe killed Brianna, and she's never come forward out of fear to the police, but she's going to. She will have that recorded. So we've uncovered child molestation. We've uncovered another rape. I mean, it's just like you ask why it takes 4 years. Mm-hmm. It's just so much stuff. You just learn and you learn. And there's a lot of time. You try to request anything from Phoenix Police. All you would probably get, Roseanne, is a bunch of redacted black pages, and that'll take you 8 months.
Yeah.
So it's just like the whole thing is a big mess. And so, like, why make the film? It just started with that rumor. It's like, well, if the family's not going to do it, I'm a family man, happily married, almost 20 years, got a 17-year-old son, and Brianna's 17. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, my son was a little bit younger, but I was like, man, this one is in my craw. Like, this is not right. Like, how is it this little girl that's not even supposed to be down in this incredibly dangerous place, how does she end up murdered down there?
So this is a place where she was found is not anywhere near where she actually resided.
No, it's like another part of town. South Phoenix, and we explore it in the film a lot. You really get to see it. There's like a whole sequence of just news clips about how much killing happens there. I think it's one of the most dangerous places maybe in the country. It's so dangerous. In fact, we have to give a shout out to the Delta security team. It's called Delta Security Services. Brianna's film would not be possible without them. When I say we needed security, Roseanne, we're talking every time we filmed in South Phoenix, there's us in our van. We have a black, we say murdered out. It's all black. It's black van, little Mercedes van. But imagine us rolling in town, and then in front of us, behind us, there's 2 black Tahoes. And when we get out with our cameras, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, sometimes full tactical gear with AR-15s. I'll share you some photos with you from behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And you see us down there with our cameras, and you just see the weaponry on these guys. It's that dangerous down there. She should have never been down there. A young girl, 17, should be in Tempe, hanging out with her family, playing Dolly. I don't know what you do at 17, right? You're watching movies, having fun, like just being a kid, not in this war zone down there. Now, having said all that, we filmed with a lot of community members in South Phoenix. We filmed with some pastors, South Phoenix. Is there good people in South Phoenix? Yes. There's some phenomenal people in South Phoenix. There's a real community in South Phoenix. I've come to actually have like a love for South Phoenix. But is it incredibly dangerous? Absolutely. So you do not go. In our film, one of the retired homicide detectives says it very casually. He goes, it'd be very easy to get killed in South Phoenix. He's right. She should have never been there. She should be at home.
Wow. All that being said, you have a clear suspect. Is there a clear motive? Is that going to come out in the film?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really easy.
Don't have to prove motive, but
no, you don't. And just if I were to be super transparent, and I definitely am in our film, you just have to care. So if you don't have a squeaky wheel, like a mom, adoptive mom or adoptive dad or a brother or a sister, if you're not loud and out there for, this young girl's homicide, okay, who cares? And if you've got, 6 different times when I reached out to Phoenix Police Department, I asked them to give me a number. How many unsolved homicides do you have? It's in the thousands, and they could never give me a number. And so you have one that's 10 years old. No one is talking about it. Well, who cares? But so we start digging around, and it was not easy to get some of the interviews that we got because people are afraid. I remember, gosh, I can't go into all the investigatory tactics we use, but they would tell me via like chatting apps and different things that we would use. If I talk to you, you have to blur out my face. If I talk to you, you have to obstruct my voice. If they find out this is me, they will kill me. I could get killed down here. It's like, it was crazy. Like, I never felt safe there. Is there a clear person? Yes. Roseanne. Yes. Yes. Very much so. Gina knows it. And that's why Gina's after it. And she is after it. And let me tell you, that is your squeaky wheel. And so when we created this film, what happened was that Gina told me, she goes, these are all the things that I've done. This is all the stuff that I'm, that I do. And I'm like, well, we need to film it then. Like if this, it's not compelling for you to just tell me it's sitting in a chair like most crime documentaries of what you've done. I want to create something that I've never seen. And so right now, and it's done, our film clocks in at 3 hours and 23 minutes long. It's like a Joe Rogan podcast. It's like you can tell from the trailer, it's shot like a movie almost. It's like very high budget. So it took a long time. And we just wanted to come alongside Gina while she does what she does. And I tell you, like, you see her blasting the megaphones. You see her with the picket signs. You see her hanging up flyers everywhere. You just see her.
I saw her in your trailers, and I was like, "Who is this?" At first, you kind of think this is the mom, but it's not. And so I went over to Reddit, which is usually a good place to go for these kind of obscure cases, and I saw her name there, and I was like, "Gina, she's somebody." Like, who is she? I was curious as to what she was all about. And then I learned she was a mother of one of her best friends.
Yeah.
Of the few things that have been said about Brianna and her murder, she's often been referred to in the very few articles that are out there as a chronic runaway, a troubled teen. But that seems to be something that other people refute, Gina being one of them. What's the deal with that? Was she chronically running away? Was she troubled? Was there would you say it can all be attributed to like typical teenage behavior, or was she really like trying to leave her home and this is the reason why nobody raised the alarm when she was killed? They're like, oh, well, that's what she gets because she kept taking off and doing things.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. As you articulated, like the people that I would say love her, from my opinion, love her the most, spent the time with her and know her the most, that we filmed in the interview, they would tell you that she's not a chronic runaway, that she's not. And by having that out there, what does that do to the community, or what does that do to, like, the news audience is just some sort of bias now. Like, well, that's right. She's just a weird little kid with issues. And so, that's what she gets. There's trouble there. It is an unbiased documentary. I made a film of what I was capturing and what I was seeing. There's trouble there. Is it the trouble that is, the very little media coverage that she got? I mean, like, is it exactly as they say? No, because, if someone runs out of their house to get away from something, for example, and if police are called and then she's picked up, well, there's government paperwork, there's a document, there's a police report, she's a runaway. She's run away. So, if that happens more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, what happens, So, a great question that's asked in the film is, everyone wants to point out that she's a runaway, but no one is asking, well, what was she running away from? Why was this girl in South Phoenix all the time at the end of her life and not in Tempe? And that's what we talk about in this film as well.
I'm really curious about that and about her situation with her parents as well. Hopefully you're addressing that in the documentary, because I don't want to get, like you said, I don't want to get too far ahead of it. But we know she was adopted and her parents were in the throes of a divorce at the time of her killing. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were not living at the same house for sure. And that's the thing. And you actually see it in the trailer. The newest trailer that just came out a week ago. Like, that's just like a week old at the time of this filming. And so Gina had hired a private investigator that she was working with because she just wanted answers. And she really wants to still, even myself, like, the door is open to work with her family. The door is open. So you see it in the film. The private investigator is like knocking on the door, the mom's door, the dad's house. We went there. We tried. I think I can understand maybe her dad's apprehension, because when that other podcaster did their thing and like other people have looked into this case, just the way they behave, they always think oh, the family's guilty of something. And, and it's like, the true crime people, like that's, their brains go there all the time. But I just have 4 years of facts, and the door is open to talk with them, to work with them, possibly film with them. This film is done, but like to possibly film with them. I would hope that would be the case at some point. So, Roseanne, I'm not like shutting the door up from that. Like, if there's anyone that can help them, you're talking to them right now. I mean, I put a lot of life into this, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. And if we all would work together, it would be a lot better. Here's what I'll tell you. I'll give something away in the film that is terrible. I received a message during the filming from someone who's in our film. nameless, typical, blurred out face. This individual said, I want to help because I love Brianna. I want to help, but I received this message from Brianna's dad. Brianna's dad, when he found out after we had talked, that we were investigating this, he had started sending messages, I guess, to like every person on Brianna's friend list. I'm not sure like how many people, but I was receiving these messages, and he was discrediting myself, discrediting the film, the motive of the film, and what the film was to be about. And I can now kind of say comically, it was like he was accusing me of defamation, but while fabricating that story, he was actually defaming me. We immediately hired attorneys in Arizona, immediately sent cease and desist letters to her dad. I will sue that dude so fast. You have no idea, Roseanne. I will hire a team of attorneys on the drop if that dude does that kind of stuff again. I'm here to help solve a homicide. This film is not about that guy. It's about his daughter's homicide. But it was wild to experience firsthand the same stuff that like that podcaster experienced or other people that try to reach out. So we do explore that. We do explore what was going on in that house. We have filmed with friends of Brianna's and Brianna's siblings. We have filmed with classmates, Brianna's boyfriend. We filmed with teachers from Brianna's school, friends of her families from their church. So like, I mean, how many people do we need to surround Brianna's life with who all don't know each other, who all tell me the same things that they witnessed and that they saw? And then with this handful of people from South Phoenix that we filmed with, I mean, a teacher at a church is a completely different world than a gangbanger from South Phoenix, but they both know Brianna and they tell me the same stuff about her life and her family. And so that's why something like that takes 4 years. It's because you just have to, I remember one interview took like 4 or 5 months for this person to finally agree. It's like, gosh, people in our, I get so worked up thinking about this young girl because it's just a kid that people want to write off and call her a little chronic runaway with mental issues. I read her diary. Have it. Yeah, there's some trouble there. Dude, who doesn't have trouble at 17? It's like, it's so frustrating. And, and we're at the spot now where you and I are having I love chatting with you, Roseanne, because this is our first conversation about these 4 years of life. And by the nature of it, we're creating interest in this girl's story. My hope is, again, we do hundreds of podcast episodes. This girl becomes somebody and everyone knows her. I have we're on camera, you and I talking behind me. I have multiple Emmys that have her name on it. And so it's like that child is going to be known by this world, and we're going to get this thing solved. Phoenix police have to get off their booty. Take some time with me. Let's sit down. Gina's more than ready to present to them the interviews that we have, how we can explain. I know I'm rambling. This is so frustrating. Like we can explain everything away. Go ahead.
I'm hanging on every single one of your words. I'm so even more intrigued now than I was going into this because I was kind of frustrated. I'm like, what is going on? Why is there no information? Like I can't even put together a 20-minute episode, and you're just bringing me to it. And I'm so.
It was frustrating to, I still have I have terabytes of data for this story and this film and the conversations with her dad via email and the very brief conversation I had with her adopted mom. And it's just like me, Dan Brown Jr. is not the enemy to this. Now, having said that, once we learn so much stuff about what's going on and I think I know why they act the way they act. And that's what we do. We do explore that in the film, but we don't even touch on that family for 2 hours. We build the world of Brianna. We get to learn about her through the eyes of the people who loved her. like some of the things in our film that are just so awesome to me is she had a boyfriend. They were totally in love. In our film, he got a gigantic memorial tattoo for Brianna right over his heart. We filmed the whole thing. It's in the film. It's amazing. It's like like that kind of stuff. I love that. There was I get bummed, and I started thinking about the entire runtime of our film, and then like all the things that we got our hopes up, and then they were like dashed, and then I don't know, Roseanne. The thing is, it's sad, and Brianna's not the only case. Like, there's a lot of unsolved homicides in Phoenix, and so I could make an entire career on just making films for Phoenix. It can't all take 4 years, but I don't know. Ask away.
I mean, cases go cold, right? People go missing, never to be seen again. Murders go unsolved. Sometimes there's like this perfect storm of circumstances which cause a case to fall to the wayside. Like say, for example, John Benet Ramsey.
Right.
Just everything just went wrong. Lack of evidence, no leads, no media. Well, in her case, there's all this media interest, maybe even too much in John Benet's case. Media interest or disinterest, whatever the case may be. There's some victimology issues. Sometimes the victim is classified as having a high risk lifestyle. And I'm not saying that's what's going on here with Brianna's case, but for one reason or another, these cases get cold. The victim is maybe marginalized because of their situation. If there's a drug addiction issue, if the person is in the sex industry, or because of their racial background, or police corruption, police malfeasance, blunders, investigations get bungled. Tell me, why is Brianna's case cold today?
Right. That's a great question. And you hit on it. There are a lot of things in Brianna's case that could be a reason. One, again, you don't have a squeaky wheel family. If this was my son, oh man, it's over. We're getting this thing solved, right? So we don't have that. You do have very poor coverage of her, and it's very little. So like no one even knows about it. You have a police department, and again, like when we scoured through all those police reports, and there's like another case that's tied to this thing, and like I'm digging all into this other stuff, and like meeting all these people, interviewing these people, and you realize like the Phoenix police, I'm sure there's some great ones there, but during the filming of this documentary, the Department of Justice did in fact launch an investigatory probe into the Phoenix Police Department. We go through it in our film. We talk about it. They wrapped up their findings. They found Phoenix Police Department on multiple fronts have gross incompetence as a police department. I'm very pro law enforcement, by the way. I'm a gun guy. I'm a military guy. I mean, like love the police. There are great cops, and I'm sure there are some great cops in Phoenix, but again, you don't get Department of Justice investigatory probes if it's a great department as a whole. So to answer your question, like, why did it go cold? You got a perfect storm. You got a perfect storm of like incompetent, at least police in regard to Brianna's case. They're not doing their job. They're not interviewing people. You got a family that's quiet, mental girl who runs away and maybe does drugs. I mean, it's like, it's like people don't care.
The family being quiet is very interesting to me. Do you think that, well, I guess maybe you give too much away, but is it possible that it's because she was adopted and maybe their emotional investment into this was sort of finite, Like it wasn't.
Well, what I'll say is, so in regard to the filmmaking process, like it is us. Like I was the person that conducted every single interview. So every time you see a shot in our trailer, I'm the person behind that camera. So every scenario, I'm there. There's not one frame. It's over 293,000 frames in our documentary film, and I'm behind them all. And when I asked a friend of her family, a member of their church, a very similar question, he answers it in the film. He answers what you just asked in our film. And he's known him for years and years and years and years. Spent years with Brianna. And so, he has his unique perspective. Her friends have their unique perspective. The boyfriend has his unique perspective. The teachers have theirs. And even I'll just say there's like this collection of nefarious actors that the Phoenix police have not interviewed. They have their perspective. Here's the catch, Roseanne. It's all the same. They all tell me the same thing. People from every walk of life that surround that girl's life tell me the same thing about what's going on, in her house. And again, we've interviewed also people that have been there, who spent the night there, who are friends of her siblings. I got a pretty clear picture from these are eyewitness people. Like they were there, So it's very frustrating.
You said a few moments ago that your documentary is unbiased. Sometimes documentaries do have an agenda. Sure. A lot of times they do. And yeah, I'm speaking for myself, I'm a pretty pliable person in that my objectivity is kind of fluid. How I feel sometimes stems from my indecisiveness about a case. I can watch one thing and be like, oh yeah, I know what happened. And then I'll see something else and I'll be questioning everything I ever knew. Not all documentaries have a heavy slant one way or another, but some do. Did you feel like you were treading that fine line as best you could, or did you feel yourself pulling one way or another? Is there a divide in the community where you started leaning in a different direction once you really dove into this?
I didn't actually find it difficult to stay just true to facts. Like and maybe that's just like a personal thing just in life. Like I love the truth and my faith is very important to me. Like I just want truth. I don't want anyone to tell me their crazy conspiracy theories, their opinions. I'm just not interested in it. I just give me facts. And even along the way while filming, people Roseanne, hours of footage is just on the cutting room floor, as they say, because when we were editing, it took 13 months to edit this film, and like full time, like it was like all day for 30 months. It was a lot of work. I would just be like, no, there's no evidence that supports this claim. It's out. I see what you're saying. It makes for good filmmaking. It doesn't support the evidence. It's out. And so, what I tried to do is just being humble about it. I just tried to create a film like in a way that I've never seen, which was like, I want to focus on this woman, Gina, and her efforts and everything that she has gone through and goes through to try to get justice for Brianna. But then while doing that, like things pop up. Was it hard to stay unbiased? No, I don't think it was hard at all. I mean, because like the truth is the truth. The truth is just the truth. And again, like everyone's going to want to point fingers like when they look at it from the outside, but they do that without any facts. Once you like have all the data, it's like, again, like we have more information than the Phoenix Police Department. It's like, I know where her killer is. And so when you know who that is, like, I'm not interested in anything else. It's like that person. So we're going to really go after that person. And Gina's ready to go. Like, we're ready. And so it's just like we're kind of in an interesting spot right now, just in the, because Brianna's story requires a beautiful musical score. Beautiful. And we don't have to talk all about that in any detail now, but to be finally at that stage to score her film, it's a beautiful orchestral score. Like, it's just full of cello, viola, violin, just beautiful melodies. It's not like there's elements of your typical crime documentary. There's elements of what we do. But this story requires something very unique for a very forgotten little girl. And so I'm actually treating this score as if it's Brianna's voice, and I'm actually her dad. That's how I'm looking at it. So I'm just taking my time on it. It'll probably take about 8 more weeks. So
is there a divide in the community? Like, is there their side and us? And if so, were either one of these entities involved with the investigation? Were there people who, when you came in, they were like, yes, finally, we support you. That we're excited and happy that you came to town to come and shine this light on a very dark case? Or were you met with resistance?
More resistance than I ever knew. Like, oh my God. So if you My light went up there. It's fine. So if you knew Brianna at school, you were happy to hear from me. If you were her friends or friends' parents, you're happy to hear from me. If you were teachers, you're happy to hear from me. If you were her family, you don't want to hear from me. You just do not want to talk to me. And if you're the police department, it kind of got that way as well. You just don't want to talk to me. And it's like, gosh, it's like, if you really have, and you do, thousands of unsolved homicides, we're willing to like bring in, like in our film, we have a wonderful forensic criminologist, Dr. Laura Petler, PhD, a beautiful lady, wonderful, just intelligent woman. She's in the film. She looked all through this case with me. I mean, we would really and did like spare no expense on trying to get this thing solved. And so like, yeah, it is frustrating when we get all that pushback and just like people don't want to cooperate. But people don't want to be exposed, like people do not want to be in the light, Roseanne. Like when people are in the darkness, when they're living in darkness, they make dark decisions, when they just do things that are just like questionable. You don't want anyone poking around.
That was gonna be my next question. If there were detractors, what was their reasons for openly criticizing or objecting to the making of this film? Like because they want to remain secretive. And
well, her dad's defamatory message that he sent out to like a lot of Brianna's film, it definitely hurt the film. I mean, I really thought about seeking litigation like right away. Of course, the attorneys wanted to right away. It's like, just open and shut, man. Let's go. And I'm just like, I want to get this girl justice. I don't want to get lost in the weeds, taking her dad for a ride. Like, I'm not interested. I'd really like to work with the guy. I think it would be really good for him. I don't know, Roseanne. Like it's all in the film, though.
Okay, I mean,
it's a mess.
You've had access to the police files. You brought that up a little while ago. Some of it, a lot of it's redacted, and that's really annoying when you get these black pages in your PDF, right? Have you? Is there a lead detective on her case now?
So I don't know what it is, but like most of my police reports are not as redacted as what you would probably get today. So I think Brianna's case wants to be solved. And so like we really lucked out. And it was because of that, we were able to see names of people. And then one thing got to another thing. And then we just go down these rabbit trails for 4 years. And like, what was your question? I'm sorry.
I was asking if there was a lead detective on the case. Is there a cold case unit that's active?
Yeah, there at the time of the film, there was a guy named Dominic Rostenberg. I had a couple conversations with him, and again, we're ready to bring him. Like, we're ready to bring this guy the case. Like, we're ready to bring it to him. The problem in the past is he's just one of these guys. It's just like he's just like and so like he's in the film a little bit. Not that we filmed with him, but like we kind of mentioned what's going on and. There was even like, I'll share another thing about it since it's really just, this part of our film is not public knowledge, but it just goes with our film, which is we thought we found a good one in Phoenix Police. We thought we did. We reached out to this program that they have called Silent Witness. We told them about the film, what was going on, and they were like, yeah, let's do this. Let's have a press conference. Let's have Gina, let's film it. Let's put it in the film. Let's get attention on this case. We're like, amazing. But what happens? He reaches out to the family, and the family shut it down. The family stopped the press conference about bringing attention to the case. So that's in the film. Like, you see Gina, like, you see us, like, she's like listening to the guy, like he's telling us that he's going to do it. It's in the film. You hear his voice from Phoenix Police, and then you see the emails that we got where it's like, nope, family doesn't want to do it. And it's like, so then you start asking, why?
Why? Yeah.
And I truly believe that we have the answer why. Like, we have the answer why.
I want to know.
Well, good. Oh, yeah, it's like, it's a weird thing because when you're a filmmaker, it's like you're creating a film. And like, as we're here chatting about it, you're trying to create buzz around it because you want people to get involved with it and be excited for it. But then you also can't give away too much because it's like, why even watch the film? So it's just like, I really look forward to when it's like out on all the streaming services. It's probably a couple more months and that's it. By fall, it's out there. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
Is there good evidence in her case though? I mean, have the police preserved the evidence well? The processing of the crime scene, what did they collect? Is there DNA? Like, is there good stuff for this case to be built?
Yeah, there really is. And if you would just interview the people that we interviewed, luckily that we filmed them in 4K and we have multiple lines of audio. So I'm ready to turn over all of these interviews, hours of interviews with people, and like your story, your case, it's right there. There's your case. All you got to do is do it. Here's the terrible news, Roseanne, and the good news. The terrible news is this. The person that I truly believe murdered Brianna Wells raped another girl, and she's never told anybody about that rape. She told me that same person raped her. And she's willing to go to the police and tell them that. And so if we can't bring charges in regard to Brianna, we can definitely get them on this rape. And the police don't know nothing about that. So it's like, that's exciting.
Wow.
And it took about 4 years to get that interview. It took 4 years.
Did she report it? She
didn't report it.
No.
She's only ever told me.
Yeah.
And now that's why I'm not sharing her name, and I'm not sharing anyone's name. It's like it's her. But our hope is to, where we would like to, this film is done, but I'm more than willing to continue. Because
was there ever a time when you felt like you couldn't continue or didn't want to continue, or where you were just like, forget it, I don't have the energy to fight against this resistance? Like, if the family doesn't back you up, it's really hard to want to tread on that. I've come across that a couple times. You don't want to re-traumatize them and to put them through something that they don't want to be put through, or they're trying to move on. But the dad, I saw like a news clip about him doing this run early on, like in the wake of her death. And then that was it. That was the end of his advocacy.
Yeah. And, again, like, for whatever reason, and I definitely got this impression when I briefly spoke to Brianna's adopted mom, they think I'm an enemy for some reason. But again, like, I could understand that, because like, if you've had podcasters in the past and like they totally like pointed the finger at you, or they tried to sensationalize or dramatize something, I mean, you might have a little PTSD from that or something. Like, I actually still hold out hope. I am more than willing to sit down and do a long form, interview with them. I mean, I would speak to all of them. I tried to speak with her sister or brother, mom, and her dad. And it's just like zip-lipped. I think we clearly address why that is in the film. I'll say that. But even still, I would still, I just am here for the facts. That's it. I'm just here for the facts. So let's just talk about it. And again, I think it would really do them some good, because the community, there are a lot of people in the Tempe, Arizona community that just, when they hear about this, there's that kind of rumors, that grumbling, like, oh, I think the family had something to do with it. I think it was the dad, or I think the brother had something to do with it. It's like, man, we answer all these questions. Like, just sit down and talk to me.
Good. Okay.
I'm not an enemy. I'm not an enemy.
I was wondering if the film was going to put some of these things to bed. The family's involvement or lack of involvement is a very curious aspect of this whole thing for me. So the documentary is called Girl Forgotten: What Happened to Brianna Wells. When and where can we watch it? Streaming services, theaters. Tell me where I can find this.
Well, so the hope is we're just doing a simple distribution deal. We have a company identified that looks like a go with, and then it'll just be like on all the streaming services.
Okay.
So like Amazon, Freebie, Tubi, that kind of stuff. It will be out there. Perfect. And then obviously we're going to go on quite the campaign. For right now, what listeners can do is they can just simply go to just crimesonics.com, and it will be on the main page. A link to where you can watch it will be right there. So by the time people hear it, they'll be able to. Crimesonics.com.
Now that you've made this, you've waltzed into the world of creating a true crime documentary. What do you find to be most rewarding for you personally, working behind the music or working behind the camera?
Man, you ask good questions, Roseanne.
You know what I told my I
Look
told
at
my
you.
friend earlier, I was not going to ask any yes or no questions.
That's a good question. Yes, no. Well, as a younger man, I'm 42 now, but as a younger man, I would tell you it was all about the music. It was all about the music. But like, I do find that I enjoy all of it. Like all of it. I do enjoy, like when you're out in the field, like we're actually filming our another documentary right now. We've been about 2 months into production. And when you're out in the field and you got multiple cameras with you and it's sweaty and hot and it's like, got to get the shot. And there's like so many technical things you're thinking of, like, it's like, is our white balance right? The ISO, the aperture, is it in focus? Is the audio working? Is it crisp? Are we framing these shots in an incredible cinematic way? That's a whole other skill set. And it's all happening in real time. So like, it's incredibly rewarding. But then when it comes to editing, that's where you gotta be honest. Like, what did we capture? How does it look? How does it sound? What can we not use? What can we use? So like, but that's rewarding. It's a long process. So I don't know what you like to drink, but I am a hot chai tea latte guy. When you're editing,
Coke Zero.
yeah, so when you're
First thing in the movie.
when you're editing a film, and it's like a lot of chai tea lattes.
Yeah.
But then I can tell you what I don't like is I didn't like doing all of the color. Like, when you shoot a film, like with real movie cameras, quality cameras, I'll just say that. You shoot in a format where everything looks real flat, real milky. It's real it's just flat, no color. It's just very uninspiring. And when you edit your whole film, you're looking at that footage. So it's like you're just looking at this really uninspiring footage for years. And then it comes time to color it. And I thought, I want to do this. I want to color this film too. I won't be coloring any more documentaries. It's just a long process.
One of the questions, because we kind of jumped around and I had my questions listed, one of the things I kind of skipped over, I want to go back to, is when you went into that alley and you saw the last place that Brianna was at, what was that experience like for you? Like seeing what she saw and being where she was, and did you walk her final like moments in life? Did you know what happened before, what happened right after, and what was that experience like for you?
There's a scene in the trailer, the first trailer, the one from 2022, where you see Gina and she's got her arms up in the air and she's like, they don't want this community being a dumping ground for children, and she's like, it's like a crazy moment that we filmed. That was the first time we were down there. We've come to kind of call it Ground Zero, that little block.
Yeah.
And that I remember that night, like I didn't really get to take it all in because like we had our security right off camera. It's dark, dogs are barking. We had just met Gina for the first time. I didn't know that she was going to become just like a really close friend to me. She's like a sister to me now. I really have a close friendship with her. I didn't take it all in, but then we had to go down like a couple of days later and get all the drone footage, all the aerial footage. So I'm down there and we're parked at this church that we ultimately filmed with the pastor later on. And we're just like, I'm circling where Brianna was, where her body was. Sunset, it's these beautiful imagery of a really sad place. And that's when it was kind of like, man, I got to remember like what I'm doing here. You get locked into the technical, checking the drone shots, checking everything, you're just all technical. But then when you start realizing like, wait a minute, what am I trying to say with these shots? So yeah, we're highlighting where a young girl who's the age of my son now was found dead. This is terrible. In the trailer, you see a guy say, that's when I realized it was a body. It was a female body. That day when we were filming, it was 117 degrees in that alley. so hot that our cameras were actually overheating. We had to actually dismantle the lens off the camera and let the camera bodies air out, cool down, which film for a little bit, they'd overheat. It was rough. I actually started hearing some of the music for the film in my head while filming with Jorge. That's his name. When we were filming with him, I was hearing it. And so that was like, talk about you wearing all hats. Like, you're investigating a thing, you're trying to film a thing, you're trying to tell a story. Here's the guy that found her body, but then you're also, oh yeah, I'm a composer too. So I didn't realize I would start to hear this melody, a super sad cello melody that encapsulates Brianna's story while he's telling me what her body looked like. Yeah.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
because that story I told you about, that mom that I was going to try to do a podcast, one of the things that really impacted her was the fact that even though her daughter was the one that was the victim, she was the one that had to provide comfort to other people, including the gentleman who discovered her daughter's body. He suffered terribly when that happens. And she took on that responsibility as the parent of a murder victim. She absorbed that. And I'm sure you, as the filmmaker, taking on so much emotion in this, like, that was one of the things. How has Brianna's story impacted you? What toll, if any, has the experience of creating this film had on you on a personal level? Because the gentleman who found this young woman's body, he had PTSD, nightmares. I mean, as if it's like living a real life horror film when you discover a body floating in a body of water that's bloated and decomposing. It's like, how did this impact you and affect you in your day-to-day life?
I remember the day I saw the crime scene photos. There's, people make mistakes in police departments. I've seen unredacted photos of a murdered Brianna. I'm sure those are all redacted now. So I have like 207 crime scene photos of a little 17-year-old girl burned into my soul,
Yeah.
And you see that stuff and you're like, man, that is not Hollywood. That's real. Because, in our film, there's a wonderful scene with Brianna's close friend, Hannah, where she's laying out all these photos and talking about the time that she spent, the very mundane girls hanging out time that just didn't seem all that valuable at the time, but it's the most treasured, cherished memory she has now. And so when you think about those photos, Brianna's looking silly, eating a donut, or, being rebellious and flipping off the camera. And then you juxtapose that to her laid in that alley, the way she was discovered. It's like, man, that affects you. And if it doesn't affect you, then you're not, you definitely don't be a filmmaker, because
Right. You're in the wrong business then.
You're in the wrong business. And then to get to, and I say get to, it's the opportunity to score this film. It's like this is healing for me. This is healing to come back now and to tell this film now through music. That is quite cathartic. And then again, I just sit here, Roseanne, I get so frustrated because I would really like to work with her family for Brianna's justice. So, it's like I don't shy away from that. Are they squeaky clean, spotless people? Not in the slightest. But who is?
Nobody is.
Nobody is. Everybody has something going on, and like, we need to move past that. Own it. I would say repentance. Like own it, and let's move on, and let's get some justice for this girl. So yeah, it definitely is that wears on you. And to go back to your question, the other thing I would say, I didn't realize I'd become such close friends with not Brianna. I feel like I know Brianna, but such great friends with Gina. But then I didn't realize like how much I would take it so personally when I would receive messages from people that I know who were the recipients of the defamatory message that Brianna's dad sent out. And they're like, your movie looks like it's gonna suck. This is terrible. You need to, just abandon it, or you're doing it for financial gain. Well, that means the movies are free to make, and they're not free to make. It's gonna be a long time before that thing ever turns a profit. I'm not worried about it. That's not why we did it. It's like, yeah, that's a silly thing to say to me, but yeah, like it all weighs on you, dude. It all weighs on you. It's like, I'm human, I'm a
Like
human.
we're also allowed to have an interest in a case too,
Yeah,
and not be
what did you say?
motivated by anything other than our interest in it.
Right.
What has the reaction been to you putting so much of yourself and your heart and soul into this project amongst your closest family and friends? How have they reacted to all of this?
That's a good question. I don't know if people really understand it because they don't see the day to day.
Mhm.
Like the effort that goes into finding the people, going through the crime scene photos, going through the police reports, you know, asking one person who leads you to this person, leads you to that person, then you get a phone number, and then you text this person, then you get an interview 6 months later. People telling you, "Oh, I'll be in your film, but you got to pay me." It's like, you went to school with Brianna. This was your friend. You want me to pay you for an interview? Take off. That is
Right.
that is disgusting. So you have that, and then you have again all the technical, what it's like to schedule all the logistics to go from Los Angeles to Phoenix with $60,000-$70,000 with gear, and then so much, man. I'm just thinking about like all the interviews we did and how it's scheduling all those interviews, and then all the file management, and then all the backing up the footage and syncing up the audio and all the camera angles, and then the editing, and then the mixing of the dialogue, and then the sound design, and then the color, and now finally the easy part to me, which is the score. Is like what I do. So when like, how have they reacted to it? I think they're just like, there is a handful of people in my close inner circle who have seen the film in its entirety. Pre music, so it's like a whole film, but there's no music. As you know, like watch a crime show without any music, it's going to be boring. But it has moved people to tears, and like real tears. Like, that's amazing. It's like the story. I think we got it. I think we've actually painted Brianna in an accurate light. I think we haven't painted her family in any light. We've accurately portrayed them through the lens of the people that knew them according to them. I think the Department of Justice shows us what's going on with the police department, which we reflect that. I think you get to meet Gina as this real advocate. Rosanna, it's not like any film I've ever watched. And again, like, I feel like I'm biased, but it's just not here's the crime, and here's the suspect, and here's the investigation, here's the apprehension, here's the trial, here's the verdict, here's the sentence. It's like, boom, next episode, 48 hours. It's like, it ain't that. It's just like, because that's not interesting to me, because we work on that, thousands of episodes of that. Like, that's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is like, let's really learn about who Brianna was. Let's figure out who did this in a real way. Let's figure out, why is this Lady Gina just so wrapped up in this. Gina's a hero. All along the way, Gina was, I don't want to say she was torn, because she's a very resolute person. She's like, do I look, am I crazy? Am I nuts? Like, do people gonna think I'm weird? And it's just like, I think you're gonna be beloved by people. You're doing what any mom should be doing, and you ain't even her mom.
Right. That happens. There was a case out of Florida about a gentleman named Mike Williams. And for years, the case, he had gone duck hunting with a friend. He disappeared, never came back. They said, oh, well, he must have been eaten by alligators, and closed the case. And his mom was like, what the heck? Like, eaten by alligators? And for, I would say, 15 years, she advocated and she wrote letters every single day and picketed. And people just thought she was a nutcase. And and since then, and it was some 15, 16 years after the fact that the people who murdered him were convicted, and his wife at the time that he died is one of them, you know? And the mom was right all along. But they wanted to make her out to be like she was crazy.
Yeah.
So good for Gina for standing up for Brianna when nobody else would. In this film's trailer, towards the end, I want to say it's the first trailer, there was a montage of individuals who said Brianna visits them in their dreams.
Right.
What dreams have you had about her?
You know, that is an interesting topic. And we actually that was one of the things when the first trailer was released that we got some pushback from people that are not in the film and that knew Brianna. You know, and actually the reporter that negatively reported on Brianna, we reached out to him, and one of the things that he had said to us was like, well, I saw the trailer and, you know, I'm not into ghosts and goblins.
Me neither. I'll be honest with you. I'm not, but I'm willing to hear it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I can only tell you that I never asked people about any of that stuff because I am not interested in any of that stuff. But you start interviewing all these people all around this story, and they're like, you know, and another thing that's kind of weird, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I had this dream. I'm like, all right, I'm filming, and we're filming anyway, so we get it. And then, you know, 6 months later, we're filming an interview, and the guy's like, you know, I had this dream about her. I'm like, okay, it's weird. You know, then, you know, 9 interviews later, it's like they all had these dreams about this girl, and you're like, whoa, okay. It's like, again, as a documentarian, I have to add that because, again, I'm just, these are what people are telling me. And so if that's what they're telling me, then I'll put it in because that's what you're telling me. I don't have to believe that.
Right.
But if it's what you guys are experiencing, then I'll put it in there. And so like a lot of people truly believe that they have been visited by Brianna Wells in their dreams, and they believe it. They believe it. I don't have to believe it or not. I just filmed it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm a person that needs to see and hear and feel the facts and the information too. And it's another thing, the reason why I don't cover a lot of unsolved cases because I like telling a story like beginning to end and having a bow to wrap it up. And so I'm hoping eventually we'll get to that point with this. I'm going to link everything in the show notes, but why don't you tell us and the listeners where we can find you? Are you going to be making the rounds on YouTube and the podcast? Let us know where to look for you. And tell us about any upcoming projects that you have in the works.
Well, that's lovely. So when the film is done, there will be, you know, links just right at the crimesonics.com homepage. We do own the girlforgotten.com URL. We'll flesh that page out. There will be a lot of behind the scenes stuff there. We're going to do probably like a director's commentary cut of the film, which we'll just put that on YouTube, but there won't be any dialogue from the film. So people will actually be able to watch the film free, but you're not really getting to see the film. You're really just hearing us talk about everything that we went through. And they'll be like, it's just more of like I want to say like a fun thing to do, but it's really, again, it might be just cathartic.
Yeah.
I am going to release all of the music in runtime order on YouTube. That'll be fun, I think.
And please post it. You joined our Facebook group. Post everything about it. And
thanks.
for sure. And it will remind me to make sure I come back and revisit this as, you know, what happens, what develops after this film comes out and people start to know who Brianna is or what.
Yes. Yeah, Roseanne. Because like, I will tell you, my heart tells me that Girl Forgotten, what happened to Brianna Wells, even though this film is finished, I just don't believe we're done because we're working hard behind the scenes to get all this information together in a forum where it's easy for, I want to make it really easy for Phoenix police. Just read this, watch that. It's all those little clips. Here you go. See how it adds up. So I just don't think we're done. You know,
law enforcement don't like to be like stepped on, you know, like
it's so silly. Pride.
It is. And they don't like to admit they're wrong or if they've made mistakes, and they'll stick to their guns till they're blue in the face. So
it's so silly. And it's like, listen, who cares about that? Like, just who cares? Let's just get the girl justice and move on, because, again, like there's, many other unsolved homicides there that no one knows about. And that's, if I could make the final appeal to your amazing listeners, is it's a film like I've never seen, and that's why we made it. It's a character driven, not investigation driven film. It's a story told through the eyes of the people that loved her without the help of her family. It's shot in a way that feels much more like you're watching a movie. It's like a cinematic documentary that features an incredible woman, Gina, an incredible advocate for a girl that she really didn't know all that well. But of course, she knows her daughter well, and she knows how her own daughter had to learn at a really young age. Bad stuff happens to good people, and it moved her to action. And like, it's just, I just
feel that.
Yeah, I just
have a daughter. My daughter is 25, and I remember when she got to that age, I started hearing about crimes committed against girls her age as an adult. She was born in 1999, and you remember the Gabby Petito case?
Yeah.
She was born in 1999. It was really the first case where the victim in a relationship of some domestic violence going on was murdered. That was almost the exact same age as my own kid. And I can't even imagine sitting on the sidelines and being quiet amongst all of this that's going on with her family. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. So I'm looking forward to seeing this film to get some clarity on why. Like, why are you quiet? Why are you stagnant? Why aren't you advocating?
And I would tell you, from the perspective of the individuals in the film, that question is truly answered.
Good. I'm glad, because I want to know. I'm curious. Well, that's all of my questions. We got through them all. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about Girl Forgotten, what happened to Brianna Wells. Do you have sort of like a ballpark time this is going to be available to stream?
Yeah, at the time of our conversation, this recording, I've written 25 minutes of music, and it's a 3.5-hour film. So I got a few weeks of work ahead of me, which is, and it's work that I just love. I can't wait. I can't wait to get up every morning. I can get up, come right down here, and most of the themes and the thematic material it's all written. So now it's all variation, and like I'm just working through the timeline. It's a beautiful experience right now. It's a very blessed life. I will tell you right now, it is. When that's done, the entire film is done. I'm looking at it. It's finished. We just get it over to the distributors. It goes through a QC process, and then it's up on the streamers once they license it. And I would say at the absolute latest, in the summer, fall, at the absolute latest. Like it's we don't want to hold this anymore. We want it out for the world to fall in love with Brianna, and now there is all this information that people can make incredible podcast episodes about and paint this girl in a light, a light that really reflects who she really was.
Amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this. Sometimes it does take that one person that cared enough to say something. It happened in the Golden State Killer case, with Michelle McNamara and her book, and that was her passion. And it's sad to know that she had passed away before he was actually identified and found. So hopefully that this jumpstarts and puts a fire under the butts of these officers, this law enforcement agency that's investigating, in charge of this case.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can be okay with a murderer being walking around on the streets like this. Why they're comfortable with that.
And, just one little thing I'll say is, you read in a police report an interview that takes place with an individual, and you're like, okay, I wasn't born yesterday. Let me interview that person. So then you interview that person. You're like, wow, you're telling me a lot more than you told them. And then you see some other names that are mentioned, and you're scanning all the police reports like, this person was never interviewed. And this person was never interviewed. Let me go find these people. And then we did. And then we interviewed them. And then you're like, wow, this is incredibly invaluable information that you absolutely need to tell Phoenix Police. No. Well, you can give them my interview. So, okay. So I think we're, we start our press tour today with Roseanne Sinclair, the absolute sweetest and best podcaster in the true crime game.
Thank you.
And,
You're so sweet.
it's gonna happen, Roseanne. It's gonna happen. And then here's what I will tell you, Roseanne. You're in Las Vegas.
I am. Yeah.
You ever come out to LA?
I do, because I was born and raised in Southern California, but yeah, I'm always there. I'm there at least once a month.
Okay, then this is a absolute promise that I made to you. Mm-hmm. When the film is done, why don't you come to the Crime Sonic studio, and why don't we watch it before it's out anywhere?
I would love that. I was going to ask you for like the link to like the advanced screening.
Right, why don't you just come here and we watch it together? Because
perfect.
And my wife will be here, my son will be here. They helped on it, and
wonderful.
I think that would be quite the experience.
I would love that.
You
absolutely.
are our first podcast here, so it's our first one. You get the
Nice. I'm so glad. I'm honored because my podcast is a little nichey and it's small, and I have a very dedicated following. Been at it for almost 8 years. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me this afternoon. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get. Do you have a time frame? And from there, if you know me, I was probably just running my mouth as usual. Brianna's murder remains unsolved and is posted on the Silent Witness website, with a reward being offered. If you have any information about Brianna's murder, please call Silent Witness at either 480-WITNESS, that's 948-6377, or 1-800-343-TIPS, that's 8477. Spanish speakers may call 480-TESTIGO, TESTIGO, 837-8466. You may remain anonymous, and you could be eligible for a cash reward. The link to Silent Witness is in the show notes. Thank you all so much for listening. I will take you out with an original composition written by Dan. It's entitled Alia Flies, and it took home the 2022 Emmy Award for Best Musical Composition. Girl Forgotten, What Happened to Brianna Wells will be out later this year. Keep following California Dreaming here on Facebook. We will keep you updated. You can also find the link to crimesonics.com in the show notes. The documentary, along with all the places that you will be able to stream it, will be available on the website. As always, until next time, take care, be safe, and sweet dreams.